the September 25th, 2020 Finance and Personnel Committee to order. Clerk, was there proof of notification? Clerk, could you please take the roll?
29th. I'm sorry, it's not the 25th. Yeah.
Oh, I apologize. This is the September 29th meeting of the Finance and Personnel Committee. Thank you. Yep, I was reading from the wrong spot. So Clerk, if you can take the roll, please.
Gentis?
Here.
Luck?
Here.
Murphy Lopez?
Here.
Brewer? And Seat? Absent, 5 present.
Okay, so we have a quorum. I have heard from Supervisor Turk that he will be joining us in a little while. Heard from Supervisor Seep, so we'll stay tuned to see if they arrive. And then, Ms. Scott, do we have? Double check that we do not have Supervisor Seep on the web platform. Okay, so we'll just keep an eye out for Supervisor Seep, and if he gets here, we'll announce that. So if someone could let me know, that'd be great. Let's see. Well, a couple of reminders for this meeting, especially with the increase in virus cases lately. It's very important that everyone wear a mask in our public meetings. If people are not able to wear a mask because of an exemption or a personal choice issue, then we would just ask them to please join us by phone or via WebEx, and that's available to the public and county employees. So thank you everyone for understanding about that. Also, please make sure that your phones are turned down so that we cannot hear incoming calls or notifications, just so that everyone can hear what's happening. Okay, so agenda approval. We have an 18-point agenda. I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I so moved.
I'll second. Okay, so a motion by Supervisor Gentis, a second by Supervisor Brewer. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, so we have an agenda. So item number 15, the finalized budget. We did notice this agenda of the Finance and Personnel Committee as that there would be a potential that there would be a full quorum or a quorum maybe of the county board to discuss this item. So I just want to clarify, I think what we're going to do, because several people have to, a handful of people have to leave early, or I shouldn't say leave early, but they have to leave by a certain reasonable time, you might say, of around 3 o'clock. I've heard from a few different people on that. And so I think what we're going to do, I was thinking about moving this a little later so Supervisor Turk could be here, but I think we're going to start with that item, just so that in case we have board members who have questions and comments, and I would assume almost all the board members may have questions and comments, that I'll move this item to the first item that we take. I just want to give a few comments about this before we get started. We'll have Administrator Langreck walk us through his report. It's a little unusual, and I didn't get to talk to Chair Brewer about this previously, but it's a little unusual to have a full quorum present at a committee meeting, but we noticed it as such so that we could satisfy Council Southwick's requirement that we notice the public. However, the Finance and Personnel Committee, our task today with the finalized budget is to approve a finalized budget so that staff can publish it in the Richland Observer on October 3rd. So the purpose of this meeting today is not to have the full board vote on the budget. That will come on October 27th when we have a full board meeting. And the purpose here today, I would think of it more like a study session where board members can ask questions and make comments. The Finance and Personnel Committee, I think we're eager to hear from board members members to make the process go as smoothly as possible on October 27th, when the board will decide if they want to approve the budget and if they want to make any amendments to the budget. So our job here today is really to listen after we get a presentation from Administrator Langrek, to answer any questions that we know the answers to, and we may not know all the answers. Even staff may not know all the answers to questions from board members, but at least to have a venue where people can get those out, where we don't have a full board meeting with another big full agenda of other items. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Administrator Langrek for him to walk us through the budget documents. And if anyone has trouble finding these budget documents and they want to be looking at them, please speak up. Administrator Langrek, can you start with sharing with where these documents are located?
Sure, for folks that are even outside of access to the committee folder, and then on the Richland County website, underneath the Finance and Personnel Agenda and Minutes page. If you scroll down to the bottom of the agenda and minutes page, you'll see underneath the meeting for September 29th, a list of different hyperlinks that will take you to the PDF documents. And I think we'll start with today having context put in place by the chair. We'll start today then with document number 15, finalized budget to the county board. B is in Bravo, which is a drafted 2021 county budget report. Give everybody a minute to pull that draft document up.
And that's the Richland Finance and Percent, that's the one that has all those things forwarded, right?
Now it is, looks like a Word document report. The subject title is 2021 County Budget Report. It would be like in your folder, the second one from the end, Linda, before you get to the one that starts with ZZ 2021 Budget Options.
What's it called again?
Finalized.
Which one?
For folks who are following along on the internet, if you're on that page that Administrator Langrek was referring to, there are items listed 04 through 15 on the right-hand side, and that's under the column called Attachments. And it would be the very bottom attachment. There's two 15s, and it's the second 15. It's 15 finalized budget reports of county board meetings. So I'm just repeating what he might have already said, but just being more specific in case anyone wants help finding that, because we have a lot of documents online now. It can be confusing as to where to find things.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Report content to review today: budget objectives, the process, adjustments, short-term finance and capital improvements, 2020 budget review, and 2021 budget impacts, future considerations and planning. Going into budget objectives, this is a review of items that the committee here took action and addressed in the 7 July 2020 meeting. The goals of the budget, the 2021 budget, include categories of levy to meet the operating levy limits as imposed by the state of Wisconsin, services to operate within operating limits, protect effective delivery of essential services, and then greatest extent possible maintain our discretionary services, responding to the COVID-19 impacts for 2020 and 2021. Wages and benefits, we're looking to meet projected increases and adjustments to health insurance premium costs and fringe benefits, as well as evaluate and consider incremental adjustments for employee wages, progress towards the goal of our wage study as put forth by Resolution 1989. New equipment, reintroduction of new equipment into the budget for equipment that was under $5,000. Capital improvements, capital outlays within the operating budget. Maintain the county's infrastructure to ensure future boards won't have sharp increases when items fail. Investigate annual short-term loan financing, capital improvements for projects and equipments over 5,000. And then finally, preservation of undesignated general fund in compliance with Resolution 1598. These goals were established to direct the efforts and outcomes of the process as managed by the Administrator and Finance Personnel Committee. Results of meeting these goals: proposed 2021 budget as follows. The goal of meeting the levy will hopefully meet. That's obviously we're legally obligated to meet. Services met in retaining our essential services and our discretionary services. Response to COVID-19 impacts met, but with the use of undesignated general funds. Wages and benefits met with health insurance premium increases. We did not meet in putting in a wage adjustment to continue in meeting our goals through the wage study. New equipment met in implementing that back in, but then part of that, of course, is integrated. One for our capital improvement outlays, which is met, but is kind of seen as being met with a short-term financing kind of a solution. And then finally, preservation of the undesignated general fund. Not meet as we plan on using undesignated fund to close the gap. We then go into a review on the process. Essentially, it was broken into 3 phases, or planned to be broken into 3 phases, with a preliminary phase, a reviewed phase, and then a hearing and finalization phase. The intentions of the preliminary phase identified on the bottom of page 2. Intentions of the reviewed phase and intentions of the final hearing phase, you'll see on the top of page 4. Going down to the 3rd paragraph, the process deviated during the review phase. Additional financial obligations were identified during the review, and the Finance and Personnel Committee requested the administrator to explore solutions to bring forward for consideration at their September 16th meeting. This impacted the timeline and ability to present reviewed budgets to committees. A survey initiative was added to gain individual input from county board members, which results presented at the September 21 meeting of the Finance and Personnel Committee. Considering additional financial obligations through the review process, we were looking to fill a gap of essentially $1,457,000 and change, and brought forward 2.6, a little bit over $1 million in different options to consider. That was solicited out to county board members with the results coming back. And the committee took action to utilize the finance and personnel's list based on the 2 different average lists that were created from the results of the survey. Moving on to page 4 of the report, you'll see a summary of the different action items that were included as adjustment pieces to bridge the gap. And then moving into page 5, talking about the short-term loan borrowing to address one of the 2021 budget goals. We're to investigate annual short-term loan financing for capital improvements and capital outlay programs that identifies and prioritizes projects and equipment over $5,000. Carol Worth, our municipal advisor with Wisconsin Public Finance and Personnel, was brought on to help us with this project. With our good history with Carol, we arrived at a solution essentially of bringing forth short-term loan financing to the extent of taking out $1,050,000 in November and then paying back full principal and interest in March. This would allow us to raise the levy for our debt levy to purchase capital improvements, capital equipment projects valued over $5,000. And then moving into the 2021 budget summary, when the numbers are finalized, I will be able to plug those in to show our impacts and trends. On the bottom of page 5, we're moving into page 6, a review of 2020 budget numbers. And then the big part here on the bottom of page 6, you'll see future considerations and planning. Condition of Richland County is that we will face continued financial challenges resulting from aging infrastructure, state-imposed levy limits, and increased expenditures resulting from rising costs in health insurance, benefits, materials, and services. Following the adoption of the 2021 budget, County Administrator plans to engage with the Finance and Personnel Committees and Department on planning for the 2022 budget. The following tentative timeline will be proposed in addressing current needs and strategic goals. I look to continue our conversation with this committee in December of 2020, January of 2021, and evaluating this year's budget process. Then moving on in January to affirm our commitments to prior resolutions. In January and February of next year, discussions on capital improvements and projects. In March of next year, review and affirming our partnerships. In April and June of next year, discussions on staffing and spacing. In July of next year, health insurance and benefits. And then operation budget again next year in August and September of 2021. So this is the draft report, Mr. Chair, when the budget was finalized to present to the board.
Mr. Langer, can you please walk through document, so that we're, and we might want to get that on the table and then start our discussion.
Mr. Chair, looking for proposal today to accept finalized budget as proposed or with amendments. I don't believe that we have it all put together yet, waiting to see if there's going to be any adjustments from discussions brought forward today from the county board as kind of a feedback from actions taken last meeting. Second item, to publicly post, and then 3, to have the administrator prepare and submit to the board for consideration and adoption. Background in this, in the previous Finance and Personnel Committee meeting on September 21st, actions were taken to address the shortfalls of 1.4, plus and adjustments to fill the identified 2021 budget gap and obligations. A list of identified adjustments was approved by the Finance and Personnel Committee and solicited as a survey to all members of the county board on 16 September 2020. Using information from the responses of the survey, Finance and Personnel Committee took action to select options to bridge the estimated gap obligation expenses. And that is kind of the report we went through. And then we do have also the documentation or the documents that are available to you folks as well, kind of showing again the different options that were solicited as well as the ones that were brought back by survey. Because the 2021 budget process included a new method and approach, the Finance and Personnel Committee is looking to engage with the entire county board in discussion on the proposed budget, intended for consideration and approval in the October 27th, 2020 county board meeting.
So with that, I'd entertain a motion and a second so that we can start our longer discussion. Okay, motion by Supervisor Cooey.
I'll second.
Second by Supervisor Luck. Okay, so one big question I have is, Mr. Langer, can you, I see there's some new information in this report that you presented on the general fund as of December 19th. It sounds like there may have been an update. Can you update us on that and let everyone know where that came from?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, you're referencing bottom of page 4, is that correct?
Bottom of page 5. Under 2021 budget summary, and it says general fund as of December 2019.
Yes, Mr. Chair, that was taken from audit committee, or our auditors did get a report back to us. That information came to us on Friday. I get to sit down and digest it with the clerk and with Bill to fully understand and appreciate it, but we did get our audit report back. So that's where that is being plugged in from.
Okay, and it looks like we had an increase in our general fund in the calendar year 2019, so last year, roughly $850,000. So to me, that looks like about somewhere in the 20 to 25% range that we increased our general fund. And I remember end of 2018, we had 3 months or approximately 25%, 26%. So that means now we have a higher percentage than we did at the end of last year.
Well, that would be at the end of, then the end of 2018. So this would be the end of 2019, which is already a year ago. So this, going into the beginning of 2020, then yes, that's what these numbers are saying to us.
Okay, so to me, this sounds like some really good news. That we should be proud that we increased our general fund that much in 2019. So I think the way I'll do this is I just want to hear from committee members first if they have questions or comments like I did on this new report, and then I think we'll open it up to other county board members in attendance. So can I start with Supervisor Cooey?
Yeah, I don't have anything to comment other than glad to see that we're going in the right direction with the general fund.
Supervisor Luck?
So we're suggesting that we take about 350,000 from general fund to cover, is that right? This year? So that would, if that increase was 856, that would bring it down to 500,000. Does that math make sense, everybody? Yeah. We're still moving in the right direction, but we're taking a chunk. Okay, I don't really have any questions. We're just digesting that.
Yeah. Okay, Supervisor Gentis?
No, I mean, I thought you said you didn't have it, but this adjustments after, you do have the adjustments here on this one, right? You said you didn't have the adjustments, but they're right here.
On this report,
Yeah.
Supervisor Dentis? Yeah, the page 4
Yeah, I got it.
includes the ones that action was taken.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Okay, anything else, Supervisor Gentis?
No.
Okay, Supervisor
No.
Brewer?
Well, remember, this information is at least a year behind, okay? We don't know exactly how this year will end up. We've been warned repeatedly by the people that should know that for instance, our sales tax collections will be way down by 20%. Well, from our studies, the reports that we get, isn't necessarily. So we've been holding pretty steady with those. We've been told that our interest collection on outstanding debt to the county would be down, and that's true, that is true. So we aren't collecting as much there. We were warned that property tax collections would be perhaps tardy. Not true. Good people of Richland County are paying their taxes on time. So the news is good from a year ago. I'm anticipating the news will be, I want to be optimistic that the news will be good when we add this year into it. So I feel a little better about dipping into general funds as we did. And I think it was the only real solution to some problems that we encountered.
Okay, and then Supervisor Turk has joined us on WebEx. Supervisor Turk, do you have questions or comments on this updated report from Mr. Langer?
No, nothing specific, just starting to dig into it a little bit, so nothing specific at this time. Thank you.
Okay, so yes, at the only additional comment I would make is at the last Finance and Personnel Committee meeting, I voted against what we were recommending because I was concerned about the general fund and dipping into the general fund further. But now that I see this update, I don't think I'm going to have that opposition, because if I remember right, that was my only reason for voting no. So I appreciate having this good news. I think it's definitely very timely. Yeah, Supervisor what?
I just want to make so I think you're correct. I went kind of back to some of our meeting notes, and we really have not dipped into the general fund in 2020 like we have in past years. So I think that even strengthens it even more that, that I don't want to do this. I would like to leave that money alone, but I think it's there for a purpose. And this year certainly is it.
Okay, thank you for checking that. That's good. That's good to know. So in 2020, we haven't been making as many dips as we were.
I should have added it up, but I didn't. I was just curious. So I looked through.
I don't recall any since the Finance and Personnel Committee meeting. This particular first Finance and Personnel Committee started meeting. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I mean the deficiencies clearing up 2019's budget came out of the general fund. So that list of deficiencies that we clear up in March, those did, but I don't think there was really anything else.
Okay. Okay, so with that, I think I'm just going to go to the county board members who are here, and I'm just going to go through each person to see if you have questions or comments. So if there's someone who feels like they're really well prepared, I think Supervisor Carroll will start us out, and then other supervisors just make sure as you're. I'm just going to go around the room through the tables. So if you're not prepared, just let me know, and we can always skip and come back to you. So Supervisor Carroll.
So my question is, this dipping into the general fund and trying to preserve 25% or so, it's more than just a good idea, I understand. It has a lot to do with a credit rating. So I'm trying to understand where we stand in that regard, and where's the red line? Where's the tripping point where we are trying not to get past? It's not clear to me from the discussion so far.
So this is only based on my memory because I don't have the 2018 audit in front of me. But my memory was that when we received that audit, and that was at the end of 2019, so about a year ago, a little more than a year ago, we received a notice that we were at 26% of our annual expenditures. Now, I do think there's been a little confusion about what counts as an expenditure or not. I believe the auditor is using expenditures that are non-federally funded. I could be mistaken on that. So I think there has been a lot of, we don't always know all the answers about where we're at with the general fund, because in Richland County, we don't track it throughout the year. We only wait for that 1 year point with the auditors. So I'm wondering, Mr. Langreich, do you have anything to add to my response to Supervisor Carroll?
Yeah, I think you're on it. When we send off for our ratings through like movies and such, it has to do with several different factors that are the native general to weather the storm, the diversities of our different revenue streams, which is included into it. There's several different factors that they put into place that amounts into kind of what your bond ratings get put. The other part of it is how much service debt that we currently have, and I believe, without referencing my document, I think we're like 56% of our total capacity for service debt that we legally can take out.
Okay, I'm just trying to understand what the downside is as we get into the general fund. And, that would be a consideration for me on whether that's a good idea.
Mr. Langreich, do we have the audits anywhere on our iPads? Do you know that?
No, I don't think I pushed them out to you on your folders or none.
Do you have electronic copies of the audits?
I do. It's sent to my email again on Friday.
Okay, I'm wondering if, not only for this audit that was just received for 2019, but if we can have the 2018 audit added to, I'm thinking maybe the admin documents on our iPad so that all county board supervisors can review that. I understand that there will be an audit presentation coming, for 2019. Typically, we've had that every year. So I'm assuming we'll have the auditor come to a county board meeting and get that presentation. But in the meantime, I'm just wondering if we can have those placed on the iPads.
Real time right now, Mr. Chair.
All right, that sounds great. Okay, Supervisor Carroll, do you have other questions or comments? Okay, Supervisor Gottschall, are you ready?
I think I would like to start with some additional clarification on the general fund. That just everybody's understanding it the same way I am, and I may be slow in the update here, but 4.7 million, December 2019. We're doing a year's worth of ins and outs. Closer, there we go. The general fund figure of 4.7 billion as audited December 2019. We have an entire 10 months already underway, ins and outs. So the increase of 856,000 from 2018, do we know, do we know closer to where we're at in real time? Because that's significant to me, because we're talking about negating a resolution that we've made for fund balance. And it sounds like there's no firm determination that we will actually be doing that by taking the 300,000+ to make our 2021 budget whole. Anyone have additional clarification on that?
So Supervisor Gottschall, so I want to make it clear that we know what the general fund balance is as of December 31st, 2019. So that's 9 months ago. So we don't know what's happened in 9 months. But from my understanding of what Mr. Langreich has brought forward to us, staff has been working to find out where they are at compared to their adopted 2020 budgets. So an example would be, we knew that institutional costs with the Health and Human Services Department had exceeded their available budget. But that was brought into, that was one of the, that was figured into the $1.4 million in cuts that we needed to make. So, I don't know if, yeah, Supervisor Left.
So I think, and I'm not, this is not 100%, but if you take that 4 point whatever million from December 31st of 2019, and you subtract what we covered in deficiencies in March, that should be the minimum of the fund balance. Now we get interest and stuff on it. We gain money, right, on that account, is that correct?
Yes, but that's figured into, this
Right, so
budget.
I think the only deductions from that was that one big one where we covered our deficiencies from 2019. So, but I could be wrong, because I don't think any of us understand this as well as we could or should, but.
What was that amount of deficiencies
I
in
don't,
March? Don't recall.
I can look it up. while you
Okay,
guys are talking.
that probably would be helpful. I don't also believe Supervisor Gottschall that we would be in violation or going against that resolution we passed about the undesignated general fund, because we said we would have 25%, a minimum of 25%. And with this addition, depending upon what Supervisor Luck finds out, we should be staying above that. Yeah, Supervisor Luck?
So there was $223,000 $223,000.
And then there are, of course, there are other things that happen throughout the year that add to the general fund. So examples would be when we sell property at this committee, that money goes into the general fund. It does not go into a specific fund, segregated fund account.
So for the layperson, which I would consider myself one of, the figure from 2019, we're subtracting in March what we needed to close out 2019. And then we will do the same in March of 2021 to close out 2020. Once all those exercises happen, there is at least a decent chance that we will still meet our 25% general fund reserve.
That's my understanding. Supervisor Luck?
My thought as well, Kim, I'm quite confident that we're gonna meet it or exceed it.
Supervisor Luck?
Mr. Lippert, did you include predicted deficiencies into our 2021 budget? So we already incorporated them into the gap that we were talking about.
Which types of deficiencies did you?
So I think you were talking about that there's going to be decreased revenues and the budget, the budgets of individual departments are going to have their bottom line affected. And I think you already took that into account somewhat.
Correct. On the last, the big chart that was put up with the survey
Right.
type of information, I think of the $700,000 gap, almost 600 of it was kind of projections on decreased types of revenue.
Right. So my point is that deficiencies next year, we've already taken into consideration in this budget that we're dealing with. We have never done that in the past where we've tried to determine what deficiencies there's going to be. And this year he's made an attempt to determine, it could be wrong, it could be less or more.
He being a collection of a lot of devout people in the departments.
Right, okay, yes. Yeah. The department, yes, everyone is doing a fantastic, but where we have a lot more information about what our deficiencies are going to be. And we're already including that in that $1.4 million gap we have to fill.
Correct, that was
Yes. Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
so
Supervisor Cooey?
in all actuality, the 300 and some odd dollars would be virtually the same as what we had last year with the 200 some thousand that we didn't know we were gonna have, that we paid for in March. You've compensated for that. Is that correct?
Again, in like all the department workbooks that came forward and all their different revenue bits and pieces all added up to a deficiency of almost 600,000 in different revenue sources.
So by going through that general fund and what we pulled out of the general fund through this budget is already taken care of. What we project will be our deficiency. So there shouldn't have another one in March of next year where we have it again, correct?
That's the intent and the hope of it, yeah. Yeah.
And then one more thing, the purpose, this is the way I understand it. When it comes to borrowing, we want to make sure that we have 25%. That's why we made the resolution, is to have that 25%, because then it doesn't affect our borrowing. So that's where that number comes from when we talk 25%, because we made a resolution so we don't dip below that, so it doesn't affect our borrowing rate, if I remember.
That's correct. If it impacts our rating, then we're paying more on a higher interest rate, assuming our underwriters are assuming more risk.
Okay, so I want to go back to Supervisor Gotcha.
Yeah, thank you for the clarification. That's good news. Two quick comments and then I'm done for now, I think. Just a point of clarification, I guess, under capital improvements and capital outlays. I don't know that I personally consider that status met. We are adding $83 per 100,000 to the tax levy, albeit short-term borrowing. Just the way this is written for public consumption may be a bit disingenuous. I would consider that a sharp increase. Those are expenses that are not accounted for in our operating levy. Just a comment. And then in closing, really good news about the general fund. I see it as our strategic mission here. When we make resolutions, that's the things that we are pursuing with vigor. And the two items that we did not meet in this budget potentially were items that we felt were important enough to make county resolution. So I'm glad to hear general fund may not be one of them. Wages and benefits, I would maybe recommend that we go back and do something with that resolution if this budget continues that.
Supervisor Luck?
So one of the things we talked about was that we don't have the ability to give the raises now, but that doesn't mean that, if we see how 2021 goes, we could be talking about implementing raises later in the year. So it's not off the table by any means. It's just at this point, we felt that we talked about giving them a raise but then making them pay all the insurance. And several of us were not in favor of giving a raise, but then taking it away, really, because you're making them pay insurance. So, those discussions, I hope will continue throughout 2021 to see what we can do for our employees as we determine our financial situation in a few months.
Okay, so I'm just gonna keep moving unless Supervisor Gotcha has anything else. Okay, Supervisor Frank?
Thank you. A couple of questions. Do we know what the last general fund balance is? Is our number really December of 2019 that we know what that balance is? What's the last date we know that fund balance is?
It's that date, and Mr. Chair, if I can just comment in regards to putting that document up, it is still in draft form, so until it's finalized through auditors and through Victor's office, I would refrain from putting that out publicly. But that is the last date right now through auditing of the number that's seems to be solid.
Thank you. Is there a way to have more current information, working on a budget idea that's 9 months old, knowing the taxpayers balance their budget, and I know county government's different, I know businesses are different. Is there a way to have a more current information on that? Is there a way that an accounting process will give us quarterly or something, not 9 months?
With anything, it's going to come down to the tracking out of it, and a lot of our departments, as we're kind of familiar with, there's always that lag piece on when funds are coming in, projection of funds coming in, and then paying bills out, or when service fees are solicited out. So it's always going to be a bit of a guessing game, and that's kind of why at the end of the audit we picked that last day to do the snapshot on that. But in realms of trying to keep a tighter estimate on it. It's something that can be investigated and explored, but with anything I'm trying to track it, it could we might need more resources, more people, some more types of softwares and such to help us boil it down if it is possible.
All right, thank you. I think that's an important piece for the taxpayers, for us to know, for the departments to know a little closer where we are. And I do appreciate this process. I am very impressed with it. The number of years I've seen county budgets work. This is probably the most transparent. This is probably the best process I've seen, and I am very impressed with this. So I don't want to negate that thought at all. So thank you for the work you're doing on this. I do want to reflect the idea that yes, in my book, this is a tax increase. We do have that short-term borrowing. That is an increase. I did vote for it. I think that it's a process that has to happen to take care of some of those larger projects that need to be done. I see that the budget is kind of balanced against some of that. Some of those items are removed from their budgets and put over into those capital improvements, capital projects in the short term. And I think that's a good direction. I think some of those things have to be managed that way.
Anything else, Supervisor Frank?
And nothing right now. Looking through my notes, that's all I have right now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, Supervisor Cosgrove, I think that's. Oh, okay, Supervisor Severson, I think, is that you? I don't have glasses, I need glasses really, but I think you're sitting next to Supervisor Cosgrove.
I am wearing glasses. I'm kind of foggy right now. I just got up from a 4 or 5 hour nap from work. I'm not all together yet.
That's okay. If you could pull your, oh, you don't have any comments or questions? Okay. Supervisor Van Landite. And just a reminder to folks, just pull that microphone as close as possible so that folks who are remote can hear what we're saying.
Well, being new at this, this is a great learning experience for me. And I appreciate all the comments that have been made. I see the success. I agree with Supervisor Frank on many of these things. I do have some specific questions that probably will come later on about specific deductions, and my guess is this is not the time, correct?
I think it's okay to ask right now. I think I think we would rather that people ask now than on the night of October 27th. Okay. Well, if we don't know the answers, we'll let you know, of course.
Well, that's okay. There are two things that I'd like to bring forward. A number of constituents have talked to me, and I think everybody got emailed from one of them. There are two areas that I think are extremely important to the community. One happens to be Simon's. And for the small amount of money that goes out for that particular program, I think we'd be well advised to keep that. And the other is the meal program that's put out at the university that services the elderly in this community. And to me, I totally understand we've got to cut, we've got to pull our belts in, but these things are very minor outlays for us. And I think it would be very difficult for us to reestablish those once they're gone. So I would very much encourage the reinstatement of those two items in full. And I do know that this can be a problem, but that is my major concern. Overall, I totally understand and I approve and I appreciate all the comments that have gone. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, so Supervisor Van Landite, I'm just looking at page 4 of the reports.
Yes.
And just scanning through here to check on both of these items. So at the last meeting of the Finance and Personnel Committee, this committee passed an amended motion that removed UW Food Service, land conservation, and UW Extension from the list, but we did not remove Simon's, but
yes, we did. Oh, that's right. That's right.
Is that correct, Administrator Langreich? Was Simon's not on the list?
Right.
It's not on the finance.
It was below the line.
That is correct. It was 2 down below the bubble.
Okay, so both of those, Supervisor Van Landijk, are, those cuts are no longer being proposed as part of this motion that we're considering today.
I see, so they're remaining in state as they were.
That's correct.
Excellent.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good question. I didn't know the answer to that. I'm glad you asked it, especially about Simon. So, okay, Supervisor Call.
I don't have any questions, but I have a comment. Because I am new on the county board, I'm not real familiar with all of the issues with finance and so forth. But if the personnel and finance committee feel that we could use the general fund to answer some of the debt that we've got, I know they've done their homework. I am totally in favor of using the general fund that the finance committee has offered us.
So there are a few items that we did shift from our operating budget to this borrowing that we would undertake. I do think there is still room, on the night of October 27th, I believe, I may be incorrect, but to do some shifting away from that borrowing if we think we want to take more out of the general fund. However, I know that right before I came on the board in 2018, Richland County received a bond rating downgrade from Moody's, and that affects or has the potential to affect our interest rates. So if the bigger general fund balance we have, the next time Moody's rates us, I think the higher chance that they will return our bond rating, they'll upgrade it, which would help our interest rate. So it's kind of a balancing act in my mind, because we can raise taxes and increase our revenues, and Moody's probably likes to see that, because if we have higher revenues, that makes our bottom line look better. But they also probably like to see that general fund increasing. But then is that going to be okay with the county board and with the people we serve, that they're getting an $83 tax raise on a $100,000 property? So that's the kind of thing that we have to balance. And I think there is some potential if there's enough interest, the county board could decide, well, we want to do something a little bit different than what you're recommending here today out of this Finance and Personnel Committee. So it's definitely a good thing to be thinking about and discussing in my mind, my opinion.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep, Supervisor Brewer.
Additional information for Peg. One of the reasons that our rating with Moody's was downgraded is because Richland County operates a nursing home. Well, we know that Pine Valley Village is one of the bright financial spots of the county. We know that. It's well run, it's well managed, and they're able to give back to the county additional funds that help us balance our budget. So other than the outstanding debt for the property, the improvements we made there several years ago, Pine Valley is more than carrying its share. So Moody's is all wet as far as that goes. Because I suppose many counties in the state have run into problems with having nursing homes. We have not, and it's a good thing for us.
Okay. Supervisor Glassbrenner, you're next.
You hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I do have just a clarifying question, and then I would disagree with what some of the others have said, that this is a learning process for me. So
Could you pull that just a little closer?
Yes.
Thank you.
Is that better?
Yes, that's better.
Okay. I have a clarifying question and then a couple of statements, but as some of the others have said, I'm learning. So if I make an incorrect statement, please correct me so that I can learn. But first off, I just want to clarify on page 6, I think it might be a typo where it talks about the contribution from Pine Valley. I believe that was supposed to be $342,000. Is that correct? And right now it looks like it's $34,900,000. The top of page 6.
Yes. Yep.
Yes.
It is a typo.
Okay, I didn't know if this was going on a public website, but we might want to cut that number. And then secondly, I just want to agree with what some other people have said about being encouraged by the general fund, the update on that. I think that's great that we're going to be able to hopefully preserve that designated amount for the general fund for that resolution. But then, you know, as we look at the other resolution that we have, the 1989 resolution, like I said, I'm learning, but I do think that's something that we need to consider as far as the strategic planning when we're looking forward from here on out, is where we will spend money and being able to spend money in areas where it will actually save us money. I believe that was part of at least part of the intent of that short-term borrowing fund for capital improvement. And when I look at that resolution of 1989, I think that can fall under that as well, because as anybody in business can tell you, employee retention has a huge impact on budget, as does employee turnover. So I know that increasing their wages is only one piece of that. And so I'm encouraged by what Supervisor Luck said, that you guys will continue to look at that as we go on into 2021. But I just think that we need to consider that as an area, or one of the things that we need to look at. How do we continue to improve this in order to continue to save the county money versus losing money in that particular area?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for those comments. Supervisor Seep has joined us. I'm going to go ahead and go to the next supervisor, but Supervisor Seep, if you need to jump in at some point, just let me know.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I apologize for being late.
No worries. Okay, Supervisor Wagner.
I don't have anything at this time. My questions were answered. I will say though that I do agree this has been a much better process, and I'm glad to hear you guys on the radio explaining what's going on. It's made a huge difference. Keep up the good work.
Okay, thank you. And then I also do want to mention that, you know, I think every time we do a budget, we're going to learn new things that we should be improving on. This year we have an administrator, and that has been an extra set of hands that has helped. But I think several of us who have been working closely on this know that we still have a lot of room for improvement. So don't be shy about sharing those ideas. I know I've heard several ideas from the public since we started this process, and I think we want to be all ears and make sure that the public is being heard. So with that, I'm not sure if we need to discuss this any further before we, if there are any other ideas folks have.
Mr. Frank has another comment.
Yep, Supervisor Frank. Oh, and I'm sorry, Supervisor Carroll. Yep, I'll come back to you. I remember you raised your hand earlier too.
Great, thank you. Just looking at the list on page 4, the very top item talks about Pine Valley, and it says directive was given to amend the budget to a more optimistic census revenues. The transfer may jeopardize solvency for the year. So can you explain what that means? I'm guessing it's the census of the people that are there, and you're expecting an increase from that. Can you give me a little background on that, please?
I can touch on it lightly, and then I would move me to probably turn it over to our administrator out there. Essentially, the initial budget that was put together was conservative based on a current COVID situation with census being down. And that was kind of taken as a conservative type of approach to it. I did give directive to Tom to be a little bit more optimistic with it, which of course then runs the risk that if we don't breach pandemic and we don't get folks into those beds, that we could have a lower revenue projection. Administrator Griswold, is there anything else that needs to be commented on that? Oh, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Supervisor Luck, it was related to this comment? Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
So my understanding from talking with Tom is that, because I asked him, I said, I don't want to take this money from you and then put you in a situation where you're not okay. And what he told me was that this money they still have enough operating budget to carry on. So if things were to go bad, they still have a savings account, basically. Is that correct, Tom? Yes, right. So, because my concern was, I don't want to take, the 200 was one thing, but then the next 142, I was like, man, we're draining this dry, and then they get into a bind. But he said that they will still be able to operate with the rainy day fund if they had to. So I was more comfortable with that second 142.
Good, thank you for the clarification. That makes sense, and that was my same concern I had, is what would happen down the road. So thank you.
Supervisor Carroll?
I was noticing that on the revenue streams from the state, adds up to roughly 5.5 million as far as our revenue, and projection for next year shows an increase. And I just wondered if we've had any input from anywhere to see if that's reasonable. I would expect that it possibly go down.
We do try to, in working with Wisconsin Counties Association, and I do have lobbyists down in Madison where they try to get a feel for that. Everything is still kind of not so firmed up. Obviously, they work on a biennium type of budget for 2 years. So knowing exactly how they're going to adjust for it is yet to come to us. We haven't seen any notifications through Wisconsin Counties Association that there's going to be revenue share reductions on it. At the same time, we are certainly not, we don't have our head in the sand, and we see that they've, some of their bigger departments, that they are doing personnel reductions and taking other types of actions to reduce their expenditures at a state level. So we are optimistic that hopefully we don't have too much of an impact, but obviously we see it from our position here in Richland County that the state is in financial troubles of their own. So, and that extends also then, I mean, you have the same type of concerns reaching into a federal type of a level. We did have Senator Ron Johnson, who was on the Wisconsin Counties Association meeting on Monday, and he was talking about the different stimulus packages and the troubles in even trying to find buyers for some of the federal debt. So there's concerns even at the federal level on making sure that eventually, as a country, we're going to have to make up for those lost production, lost services types of an issue. So I don't know if I just answered your question or talked around it, but it feels like a responsible thing is to still kind of maintain conservatives kind of approach and have expectations that there could be reductions from the state, if that sounds appropriate.
To me, this broaches the more general concern that things may be even more different in 21, 22, and we need to save a few arrows in our quiver for if that happens.
Okay, are there other supervisors that, out in the crowd that I missed? Okay, Supervisor Sue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mike is on. With reference to the revenue stream, there was a recent analysis published by the Wisconsin Counties Association and the Wisconsin Department of Revenue, and it referred to the revenue stream in this year during the coronavirus pandemic. And because of this input of all the stimulus money, our sales tax revenue was in excess of our expectations. And in addition to that, the stimulus money itself poured a lot of money into the economy. And if stimulus money continues to come, pandemic probably will continue through 21. There is the possibility that revenue stream may continue to be positive. Local merchants have anecdotally related that business has been very good, and much better than expected, because people are not traveling to Madison or other places, they're shopping here. So if stimulus money doesn't run out, if it continues to be replenished, things may, we have no way of knowing, but things may be more positive, but we're operating on a wing and a prayer there. Thank you.
Okay, and then someone just informed me that Supervisor Williamson's on WebEx, so I just want to check to see if you have any questions. Supervisor?
I'm good, John. Thank you.
Okay, yep, no problem. One remaining issue that I would like to talk about with the committee, and I'm not sure that we'll be ready to recommend anything today, and it might need to come at the October 27th meeting, but one of the agenda items that we have today is our strategic plan and priorities. That is number 9 on our agenda. And the second item, and so this committee and the county board have already approved these strategic plan items. And the number 2 priority challenge for the county administrator is to transition finance and HR from the county clerk's office to the administrator's office. And our current budget does not address this change. And it's my belief that we need to address this in the 2021 budget. And the reason is because if we are expecting Mr. Langrecht to continue to develop our budget and present on this, and then also deal with a lot of the HR related issues that come through this committee, I think there's I've heard quite a few people talk about this. He's going to need staff to accomplish this. And I can speak personally as the chair of this committee that there have been several items. I know Mr. Langrecht is juggling a lot and doing a lot, like a lot of staff at the county, but personally, I understand a lot of the issues that come to our committee. And I know there have been times where others have had to help prepare some of these items. And I think, and by others, I mean myself and other committee members. And I think long-term, we really need staff to be doing that stuff, and we can't expect the administrator to do all of it. So one of my hopes is that we can have some sort of a plan laid out for how to do that transition of staff from finance and HR staff from the county clerk's office to the administrator's office. I'm hesitant to not have that be part of the 2021 budget at all, even though we might not know the exact number of staff and all the minutia of the costs. It would be nice if by the October 27th meeting, I believe, if we had an amount that we could shift, a dollar amount that we could shift from the county clerk's budget to the administrator's budget to reflect what the county board's number 2 priority was. So I'd love to hear comments from other committee members. Supervisor Luck?
So just to clarify, we're talking about, there's no monetary change in our budget. What we're talking about is shifting existing staff over into under his supervision, correct?
That's what I intend.
That's what I envision as well, yeah. And I think that it's imperative that we provide him with staff so that he can do his job. He's been doing a phenomenal job on his own, but it's really more than should be expected. And he really is going to need the staff to do what we tasked him with. So I agree. I guess that's my point. I agree completely with what you're saying. And I don't know why we wouldn't transfer that dollar amount to the administrator's budget in this budget. It just makes sense that that's what we would do.
Okay, Supervisor Gentis?
Yeah, I'm a little confused. You're just taking from one office of the county and moving it. Because I thought we were going to look at all the offices and see who might have staff that could help. So you seem to be pinpointing one office.
Yeah, Supervisor Luck?
My comment to that would be that we have tasked the administrator with HR and finance responsibilities, and those responsibilities, we have 2 staff members who are very skilled at that are not going to be needing to do that as a part of the clerk's office. So why would we not transfer them to the administrator?
And Supervisor Gentis, I do think that there are other areas in the county where HR and finance are handled as well. However, at this stage in the game, I'm not sure if we can wait for a study of the entire 380 employee operation to figure that exactly out. I think that's going to evolve over time. And there may be other recommended changes in the future, but in the meantime, I see the need as fairly immediate, is why I'm bringing this up.
I think we're going quickly here. So Victor, I don't quite understand how this is working. When we're doing elections and all that, he would not have any staff to help him?
May I
Yeah,
comment?
Supervisor Brewer?
We have met with Victor at his office, and we have tentatively, in my mind anyway, have agreed that we're looking at probably a July 1st schedule to do this kind of a major shift in responsibilities. He has the November election that's coming up, pretty big one, by the way. And then another spring election coming up. And in his office, it's all hands on deck for those elections.
Yeah.
And we don't want to be derelict in our duty to run elections in the county. So at least in my mind, and maybe others have different views, but Mr. Turk was with me at that point when we met with Victor, and we were looking at probably a summer schedule on that.
So I believe that I believe that my opinion on what I think this committee needs to do is we need to review a transition plan that is developed by staff that addresses some of the issues that need to be taken into consideration. So one example would be elections. If staff were if the existing HR and finance staff in the clerk's office were transferred to the administrator's office, there would still need to be some consideration for how to handle elections, because from what I understand, all 3 full-time staff that are in the clerk's office work with the clerk. So there are 4 full-time staff dealing with elections. And so whatever change occurs needs to make sure that we're still fully staffed in the clerk's office to handle those elections. But I don't believe that this committee has the information we need to understand how to make that happen. And staff who are here every day, working 40-hour plus weeks, working full-time, they're gonna have a lot better idea for how to recommend that transition occurs. I believe this committee is the appropriate committee to take a look at what that dollar amount shift would be. Since we do have the authority to recommend budget-related items, it would make sense that that comes to this committee. And also the administrator reports to the full county board, but often comes to this committee for a lot of the initial work. Is that how you would say it, Mr. Langreck? I'm not sure how our contract states it, but I know we do the initial evaluation of your job. And so as far as what staff the administrator has, I think this is also an appropriate committee, unless I'm understanding or misunderstanding. Yeah, Supervisor Love.
I just have a question for Chair Brewer. What is your thoughts then on who would help the administrator for the next almost year?
Boy, you got me, Melissa. That's the question we keep coming back to. And don't know if you have any suggestions, though.
I did have a suggestion, but.
Well, go ahead.
No, I mean, I feel like the transition can happen January 1st. And then, and we have from now until January 1st to figure out. I mean, I agree. I think we should hear recommendations. I hesitate to not have it in the budget for him to have staff.
Well, it can be in the budget. It's just not gonna happen January 1st. That's the way I see it, but hey, I'm only one vote.
Mr. Chairman.
Yep, Supervisor C.
I gather then your vision is that the staff would propose an organizational plan with all the details back to the Personnel and Finance Committee. This is going to involve not just finances and HR, but equipment and facilities and communications gear as well. All of the accessories of changing these offices around. I think it's going to take a significant amount of study, and I don't think this is something that we should rush. I think we need to be very deliberative in making a plan. But I appreciate your vision.
Well, and Supervisor Seep, if we look at it similarly to how we did this budget,
yes.
Administrator Langrek approached us with a schedule and different steps that this Finance and Personnel Committee would need to make along the way. And of course, as we got in the middle of it, we discovered we needed a few additional steps, and we squeezed those in with additional meetings. So what I guess I'm envisioning is that the Administrator Langrek reapproach this committee at our next meeting to address this. What would the potential budget impact be, and how would we develop a strategic plan, or I shouldn't say a strategic plan, just a plan, a transition plan for this number 2 priority of the county board for the administrator.
Thank you. And I also wanted to respond to Melissa's Supervisor Luck's comment about what do we do for help for the administrator in the meantime. I don't know what period of time this is going to take. You said maybe July of 21. We know, and if we don't know, we're as blind as I am, that he needs help. And we have to do something to get that help to him. We're going to have to put our minds together. Perhaps Administrator Langrek has some ideas that he can bring forward to us. But I think that that is an absolute necessity, that he's going to need assistance. Our expectations of him are too high and too broad without giving him professional help. Thank you.
Okay, so I think I don't hear any amendments at this point regarding this issue of transitioning staff, but I anticipate that this will be hitting our finance and personnel agenda potentially at the next meeting where we will be discussing this again. I think we need to figure out what we're doing, because I don't think we know what we're doing right now. So the motion that is on the table, it's been seconded, and I got to get back to it. I'm just going to reread this. The motion is to accept the finalized budget as proposed with amendments, publicly post, and have the administrator prepare and submit to the board for consideration and adoption. So clerk, if you could please take the roll on this motion.
Luck?
Yes.
Yentis?
Yes.
Moody?
Yes.
Murphy Wilkins?
Yes.
Brewer?
Yes.
See?
Mr. Chairman, this will come before the county board for final approval.
Correct.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to to abstain because Emily and I didn't hear all the amendments and the blind.
Okay, so that's an abstention.
Is Turk on the line?
Yes,
That's a vote for yes?
that is correct.
6 in favor, 1 abstention.
Okay, so the motion passes. So thank you everyone for all your work on this. Thank you to the county board members for who attended today, and we'll take a 5-minute break and be back at 2:25 to carry on with the rest of our agenda.
And I'd like to thank all the board members who are here, and everyone, but in particular the board members, because I know you have other things that you're doing. Thanks.
What's up?
Let it be something you have to talk to him. What do you think? They want to control it. There, what question? If we leave, we can't do that. I'll have to do it. This is
Well, we,
Okay, I think we gotta handle this up. I think we need to handle it in a meeting. I don't think we should, Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and call this meeting to order again. Everyone could return to their seats, please.
I don't do that till 8 o'clock. All right. I have my hair cut.
Friday. Exciting. I'm glad you're here.
Marty, you go inside the family residence?
I do.
Okay, I've never been inside.
Okay, so we're gonna start at the top of the list here, agenda item number 4, which is the treasurer property lister software purchase. So Treasurer Keller, if you could present to us on this, please.
Mr. Chair, looking today for a vote to approve payment of our annual GCS Land Nav software invoice as of January 1st, 2021, in the amount of $13,520. This is an annual invoice for the Treasurer's Tax Program software and support for the property listers assessment software and support. Continued background information is there, but this is not a new additional of software. It is just the approval continuation for the service fees and a contract regarding this software. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay, any questions or comments from committee members?
Mr. Chairman, I move for approval.
Okay, motion by Supervisor Seat.
I'll second.
Second by Supervisor Cooey. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you, Treasurer Keller. Agenda item number 5, capital fund allocation for courthouse garage doors. Administrator Weinberg.
Mr. Chair, item number 5 that you'll have in your packet or online. Looking today for a motion to utilize capital fund number 75 allocation towards the purchase and installation of our courthouse garage doors. To the bid of Garage Door Express in the amount of $24,000 as approved by Property Buildings and Grounds on September 2nd, and to forward to the county board for resolution and awarding the bid. But the overhead garage door replacement bid came to us on in the amount of $30,000 that we took action on. I incorrectly did not appreciate our county board rules and didn't have it posted in accordance with what we had to, so we were unable to take it to the county board for resolution. We did post it. The bid came back from Garage Doors Express that they would still honor a $24,000 bill now to replace our other 4 doors. One of the doors we did take action underneath the emergency clause to replace. So there's still one that has been replaced, is new, and that was because of a total failure. And this is to replace the other 4, the amount of $6,000 per, for a total of $24,000. Money coming then out of allocation for number 20, or account number 75, courthouse equipment and windows. And this allocation does fall within the purpose language of the resolution.
Okay, questions or comments from committee members?
I make a motion to approve.
And I'll second.
Okay, motion by Supervisor Cooey, second by Supervisor Brewer. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Agenda item number 6, capital fund allocation for large courtroom carpeting. Administrator Lambert.
Mr. Chair, looking for a motion to utilize again capital fund number 75 allocation towards the purchase and installation of replacement of courtroom carpeting to the bid of Badgerland flooring in the amount of $24,957.63 as approved by Property Buildings and Grounds on September 2nd, and to forward to the county board for resolution awarding the bid. The project was solicited out, and Badgerland, I believe, is the only one that came back to us with a bid. And this is, you'll see the flooring below it. This is in conjunction with other improvements that we're doing to the courthouse, to include adding in a DAR system, and we're doing some reconfiguration, I believe, also with a camera for more virtual court, and then doing some cabinetry on the one wall. So this is after we've ripped the carpet out, destroyed the floor, put in, I shouldn't say destroyed, modified the floor to put in cabling, and then we put it all back together. This would be the bid then to put new carpeting over.
Okay, questions or comments from committee members?
Mr. Chairman, how many square feet of carpet?
A lot.
I'll let the administrator answer that. I'm not gonna know that.
I don't know if I have that information for you.
Is that the total courtroom?
That is correct.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion that we approve that.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Supervisor Brewer, second by Supervisor Luck. Any further questions?
The only thing I see is it says the original bid is Garage Door Express on this document. You might want to get that off.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, underneath the attachments and references.
Yeah,
Supervisor
that's
Cooley.
the only thing I see.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, good catch.
I'll still make the motion and we'll assume that's a typo.
Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Agenda item number 7, health insurance renewal, Administrator Langreich.
Mr. Chair, item number 7, there are several different documents for you today. Attention on the first one. Motion today to accept a proposed courts 2021 renewal at 3.9% premium increase and recommend resolution to county board for adoption. The initial renewal proposed by courts came to us at 6.46%, which was trend. It was an increase for 2021. This proposal was based on the current and expected experience, demographics, and our long-term partnership. Our insurance consultant with Wallace, Cooper, and Elliott entered into negotiations with courts and arrived at a reduced renewal rate of 4.99% for 2021. This was on 26 September 2020. This adjustment rate was based on argument that our group's improvement experience accepted experience to run close to the target medical loss ratio in the coming year. Court's commitment to continuing with our partnership with Richland County. This proposal was not accepted by the committee. Wallace, Cooper, Elliott re-entered negotiation with courts, arriving at a 3.9 renewal rate. The plan and design changes were not approved in the 21 September meeting through the budget adjustment project. So we're looking at then just an increase for the renewal rate of 3.9% without doing the other options that were brought forward of having an additional tier to the medications program, an additional deductible increase, or a combination of the two. The next documents that you'll see is the actual renewal document that we would enter into. It's taking the existing HMO 1 with the rates that are broken down there. We're not entering into the other ones that were on here, which were the other two options, in combination of them both. And then the other document is the more detailed type presentation that they would give, talking about the different plan benefits with a little bit more meat kind of involved on the different options that were proposed that, again, we did not take action on page 8 of 14. So overall recommendation then is to accept the plan from courts at the renewal rate of 3.9% without alterations then to the premium share or to the plan design.
Okay, so questions or comments from committee members? The only thing I'd say is I don't think the links online are working. It did for the cover sheet, but going to the folder, look at the documents. Okay, so I entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make that motion, but things are unchanged except for the rate that we're paying, so we were able to not increase things for the employees.
That would increase to 3.9%.
Right.
Okay, so a motion by Supervisor Brewer,
I'll second.
second by Supervisor Luck. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yep, Supervisor Seep.
I think we've done our due diligence in reducing the rate at the urging of Chair Brewer. We've made significant savings here by getting the rate reduced.
All right. Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Agenda item number 8, capital fund allocation for Pier Park stairs instead of Viola Park well. Administrator Lambert.
Mr. Chair, item number 8 in your folders and for folks online, looking today for a motion to change Parks number 75 allocation of $13,000 from the well at Viola to replace the stairs at Pier Park and Rock Ridge. This comes at a recommendation from Parks Commission. The Parks Commission had submitted a project that was part of the capital borrowing fund number 75 to install a well at Viola Park and to make it an available campground. Since the original borrowing project, it has come to the attention of the Parks Commission that the front of the stairs at Pier Park are becoming unstable and need to be replaced for safety reasons. The Parks Commission would like to change this project as funded through Fund 75 for the well to replace the stairs. Gary and Manny moved on this, seconded by Cindy Chicker. It did carry on August 3rd, 2020 meeting. The money would come from adopted budget, fund number 75. This is a $13,000 reallocation. The funds were initially borrowed for, but it still reaches within the proposed language of Parks projects, borrow the money within a note form so that we can commingle it versus if it was in a bonding. So I did have a call out to Carol Worth again to confirm that this change is acceptable by the resolution for the borrow. And Kathy, is there anything else that needs to be discussed on this one?
I don't think so. Supervisor Stevenson was out there and looked at the stairs too. They've been kind of reinforced, but I don't want to go too much longer and not have to come back later and say we need to replace the stairs.
So one question I have about this, I guess when I saw this, I was concerned. I'm a regular user of Pier Park in Rockbridge, so I'm pretty familiar with these stairs. And I did stop by them yesterday, just because I didn't know that there was an issue. But my biggest concern probably is I remember all the discussion we had around Viola County Park a year ago. There was this proposal to sell it, and then we had or give it away or whatever it was. And then we also had the issue of not being able to get rid of people who were living in a camper in the park. And then Corporation Southwick told us that we, couldn't evict them because it wasn't a campground, or there was all this stuff going on. And one of the solutions was, let's turn it into an official campground with the DNR and then put a well in. And I know there was a lot of interest in that part of the county. I did hear from some folks, and I'm up in the northwest part of the county where Viola County Park is also. And, there's a desire for more use of that park, just as far as tourism and economic development goes. And so my big concern here is, so are we getting rid of the well project now? Because that's originally kind of, I think what was being pitched. And I did stop, I looked at the stairs. The stairs are not painted, so I can see how some, wear would be happening on the wood, but I saw that the lower set of steps was reinforced, or the steps were taken out and there were new support boards placed underneath each step. Yeah, it looks like something that would need to be replaced eventually, but I guess my big question is, why are we not doing the well anymore? What happened to that? Because I thought that was such a high priority, and I thought that was a good priority for our part of the county. I thought we needed that. Supervisor Severson?
I believe Supervisor Manning doesn't feel that the well was needed because of prior contamination to the former well that was there, and was worried that that money's gonna be spent on having a well that could be possibly contaminated again. I'm in full support of having water supply out there, but Parks Commission feels otherwise.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Supervisor Seat.
I can understand Mr. Manning's concern, and I also appreciate the fact that if you had a well there, it would be a great amenity for park development. I was on the Parks Commission. That well problem is going back a number of years, and we've tried time after time to deal with the problem of both bacteria, E. coli bacteria, as well as with excessive nitrate counts. And it has been treated numerous times, and there's just no remedy to that well. The other part of it is that if you, I'm somewhat familiar with wells, the existing well, the depth of the well, is not sufficient. If you drilled a new well, you'd have to drill it, couldn't drill the existing well, and it would have to be very deep compared to the existing well to get beyond the saturation of E. coli bacteria and other contaminants in the aquifer. It's a risky business to drill a well there if you've already got an existing well, because it's going to be the same aquifer unless you go hundreds of feet below it. So it's going to be a very expensive proposition to drill a new well there.
How deep is the existing well?
That I don't know. I don't remember that, but I know that each time they look, it's probably not very deep because you're down in lowland there. There's a high water table, and the topography is such that it's subject to runoff and contamination. I don't know how deep it is.
Does anyone know how we came up with the $13,000 estimate for the well? Because I assumed we were drilling a deeper well to get past some of those issues.
13,000 was a number that I had at the time as a suggestion to the committee before I became chairman. We never went out and sought a quote from a well driller. I'm just basing it off of prior experience that I've had with well drilling. So that was just a rough guesstimate figure. I do agree with Supervisor Seek that that well's probably gonna have to be a considerable amount deeper than what it currently is.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, Supervisor Brewer?
Could we postpone a decision on this and get some additional information, Carrie, from a well driller or somebody that knows something about the water table and what deep you have to go, that sort of thing? I know if you go too deep, then you get into a bad aquifer, because mine is at my house. I have to have the water conditioned because it comes out brown. So if you go too deep, it's not just a question of going deep.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Supervisor Cooley?
Do we have flooding issues at that park also?
Yes.
So okay, so the other fear is every time it floods, well, if the wellhead's not far enough out of the ground, you're gonna, that's where your coal stuff will come from, I mean, more often than not is from runoff water. I guess, in my opinion, we need to look at both of this because we need to find out how bad the steps really are at Rockbridge. I mean, the last thing you want to do is someone get hurt. And then the second point, I agree with Supervisor Brewer, that we just gotta have an idea how deep a well we gotta have to try to do that. But the other thing is putting the well and making sure that the head of the well is high enough to handle the flooding that periodically happens.
Mr. Chair, I can ask my predecessor, Steve Holstead, how deep the well was. It's been since been abandoned because we could not get it passed. We tried like different things. I don't know how deep the well was. If you need to know, I'll find it in reference or not. But, you know, I don't know. So that was give us some information.
Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Cooper. Yeah, Supervisor Left.
I'm looking it up right now. If I had the well address, I probably could find it. Does anyone know the address? Okay, well, we can find it.
Supervisor C.
The address to the property?
Mr. Chair, I didn't realize that the well was abandoned because it's been sealed with vermiculite.
I was told by Mr. Colstead that it was abandoned.
Well, it was abandoned, the state requires it to be sealed. So then you're done. You'd have to drill a new well if you ever got around to it, but if it wasn't sealed, the other option is just to post it as non-potable water.
Mr. Colstead told me that I was under the impression from Mr. Colstead that it had been abandoned several years ago before I gave him our department.
Well, it's another subject anyway. The question of sealing it.
Okay, so we have a motion before us to change the projects from the well to the stairs.
I make it a motion to postpone action.
Okay, motion to postpone by Supervisor Brewer.
I'll second.
Second by Supervisor Cooey. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of postponing, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Agenda item number 9, strategic challenges and goals. Administrator Langrick.
Mr. Chair, item number 9 in your folder or on the website. I'm looking today for a motion to accept the report and then possibly anticipating motions to advise, provide guidance under authorities and responsibilities established through the county's committee structured document. Finance Personnel Committee is charged with. E, committee shall advise and supervise county administrative affairs in general with a view of bringing about proper coordination and cooperation between the various departments and agencies in the county to the end that the best business practices may be observed and due efficiency may be maintained and that the interest of the citizens in the county may best be served. And with regards to resolution 21-107, resolution approving the county administrative strategic plan and administrative priorities, the administrator intends to make routine reports to the Finance and Personnel Committee regarding the status and progress of meeting the goals. Anticipated that the county may take action and advise the administrator by motion and defer to the county board to confirm the intentions of the full body when needed. So I'm looking today just to kind of show you what I have in mind of having the strategic plans, of course, presented in a spreadsheet with the actions that are going to be, or continue tracking on the actions that are taking. And then kind of a gumball status report on the right of showing things that are in no action, preliminary, developing, actions taken and completed in meeting the challenges for the county administrator, 18-month goals for the administrator. So I'll let you kind of just run your eyes through it rather than listening to my nasally voice. For again, folks that might be at home, this is item number 9. That you would find off of our website. And to fill the void, I'll just kind of read through the different challenges. Develop a long-term strategic plan, preliminary. Transition finance and HR at the county clerk's office to the administrator's office, preliminary. Make resolution and ordinance available and organized on the internet, preliminary. develop more uniform HR policy and procedures, no actions, implement a uniform performance review program, preliminary, develop plan for funding for more broadband, preliminary, develop finance and purchasing policy to increase admin authority on purchasing, preliminary, develop new county board orientation program, preliminary, full review of county employee handbook amendments, addendums and administrative manual, preliminary, partner with Southwest Regional Planning in developing the county strategic plan, develop policy and procedure to address complaints and investigations proposed by administrator. This is in preliminary. Develop compensation and classification plan proposed by administrator. No action taken yet. So I don't know if I have a whole lot to report on this, other than kind of showing you what I have here. But again, any types of advice and guidance we'd kind of talked about in previous item of having a transition plan that can be developed with myself and with Victor and staff to bring forward course of actions on what the desired transition plan looks like. Will be something to add for future meetings. We are taking actions on several of these items. Marty and Melissa accompanied myself at Southwest Regional Planning yesterday, and with that, we're expanding our partnership with regional planning. We also do have things in the work for communicating with Mr. John Bartz with broadband development. So there are pieces moving on these, and I hope to keep you abreast in this forum as we continue to track on these goals.
So, Mr. Langreich, I have a few questions here. So, the challenges 1 through 12, these are in order of priority as ranked by the county board. Is that correct?
That is correct, with the exception of the bottom two are the ones that I proposed and added at the bottom, number 11 and 12. The other ones were in there by 1 through 10 were scoring the highest on polls.
Okay, and then the two columns that you've added to this report, they're the actions and the status column, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and you anticipate bringing this to us like on a regular basis, just to keep us updated on where you're at with the challenges that you're working on?
That is correct, and probably add it to my my administrator's report to solicit out to county board as well. But the feedback kind of mechanism is I'm kind of deferring to you based on the structure language that kind of puts you in that realm of supervising. What is the word? The language we just talked about of advising and supervise county administration affairs is kind of the feedback mechanism, but to still report to the full county board this progress as well.
And then my other question is, so say I come to you, I call you one-on-one and I say, could you work, we really need you to work on broadband more. Okay, so you would look and you said, that's great because that's on number 6, I'm working on it. But what if I came to you as a county board member and said, I want you to work on buying some new land for a park? And so is this meant to be like a guide for if individual county board supervisors come to you kind of wanting something to say, really, I've got a list of priorities here that the whole county board detailed. Is this meant to kind of guide some of that? People of course are going to have issues come up. You're not going to be able to predict every issue that's going to come up, but I guess I'm just wondering if this is kind of intended to be a work plan, that we don't want to deviate too far from the work plan, if people have individual ideas for projects, and I just wanted to get that out there.
It's going to maintain a balancing act. Obviously, I don't think I'm going to get away with saying, and no more emails, no more phone calls, I've got my mission kind of a thing by any means. But at the same time, I see it as a check and balance on you're helping again is on pushing me on, why are these things still in orange? We've been at this for a couple months now, and we've got a lot of orange and back on here, Clint, and then it's then me to communicate to you on, well, these other types of things have come up, we've kind of prioritized them and to have that discussion. So, it could be things too, where it's like I could, I've had situations, environment changes, and as I have had multiple supervisors that are coming to me and they're saying, this is something we've got to address, and if it's a priority, that's fine, but then I'm going to have to displace this. And then through this body saying, take that back to the county board and say, hey, we're going to do some changes to our strategic plan. If that makes sense.
Yes. Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yep. Supervisor Seat.
I would ask this question. Using your example of saying that you want to buy more land for the park, I think was your example, is that correct?
Yeah, that was just a major example.
And you say, suppose I came to you, Mr. Langrick, and I asked you to do this. I would envision that as kind of cumbersome. I don't see individual county board members, 21 of them, coming from time to time to Mr. Langrick and asking him to do this and asking him to do that. I would think that you would still have an idea, like buying more land for the park, come up from a motion from the Parks Committee, and to the county board because it involves priorities, I suppose, through perhaps the Finance Personnel Committee because it involves money, and would sort of travel on a route from a committee through the board, rather than individuals, 21, coming up with their own brainchild and asking me. I would think that it's very difficult to have 21 bosses. I think we have to act as a body, and I think that's what you meant, really.
That is what I mean. I just want to clarify, because it's tempting sometimes as an individual person on the board, if you have a problem from a constituent, say, you know, to go to the administrator, or if you have an idea for how to improve the county. And so that's why I brought it up, because I just want to check myself and make sure our expectations of the administrator are clear, and that county board supervisors know their roles and how to get things through that they want to see changed.
May I?
Yeah,
I think we kind of have to learn how to behave as we work our way through this, because our role is changing, and the administrator's role is influencing our behavior, and I think we're going to have to learn. I was just thinking of one more example. We still have the committee structure as it is, pretty much in place. And if I had a complaint of someone right now about a matter that came under the governance of one of the committees, under the supervision of one of the committees, perhaps staff ordered that airplanes fly all over the county and take pictures of our buildings, it would behoove me, I think, to make a courtesy call to the chair of the committee rather than bother the administrator with that, because it had occurred under the governance of the committee through its staff. Would not that be the appropriate way to go till we learn more how to behave?
What do you think, Administrator? I think it's gonna continue to be kind of a feeling out type of a situation here. There's obviously a lot of this is gonna be based on the discretions of different situations as they come up, and then the timeliness of when you give responses. So if things become an issue and there are supervisors that I feel are kind of trying to capitalize on the time of the administrator past the intent of this body and past the intent of the board, then I'll make sure I'm boisterous on bringing those concerns first to that supervisor and then to the board of saying, I get where you're coming from on this. If it's something that's going to be a priority, I feel like I need to defer to a body to say, this is where I need to focus my energies on.
Yeah, Supervisor Gentis?
We're not voting on this.
We have before us a motion to accept the report. So yes, we are voting.
Who made that motion?
It's not been made yet.
Oh, I didn't think so.
Would you like to make it?
No.
Oh. Would anyone like to make the
I'll
motion?
make that motion.
Okay, motion by Supervisor Luck,
I'll second.
second by Supervisor Cooey. Is there any further discussion on the report? Supervisor Gentis?
Good question.
So preliminary doesn't mean that, I know we have these that we put out there, but we haven't actually voted that this is gonna be your exact list. I never saw this list exactly like this, I don't think.
Supervisor Janice, the list came before the county board, but it didn't have obviously the actions on it. It just had the items.
Yeah, and you've got actions that we didn't really decide on. Is that correct?
That's correct. And again, these are actions that are taking place. I hope to expand on this list to eventually get to a point where it's almost like a checklist roadmap on some of these, but some of them unfortunately, I'm just ignorant on knowing exactly what all steps need to get placed. So I'm hoping that this expands and becomes another Administrator Langer cumbersome spreadsheet that we have to sort and sift through. But at this time, this is kind of what I'm reporting as actions that have been completed and my view on where we are on the status on these actions or on these challenges.
So we vote for this, we're not voting that you're going to, like it says preliminary, we're still going to discuss whether that's going to happen.
Mr. Chairman.
Is that correct?
Let's let Administrator Langer answer Supervisor Gentis's question.
These initiatives were already passed by the County Board Supervisor agenda, so these are the ones that currently right now are the ones that I'm tracking as the priorities.
Mr. Chairman.
I'm confused because I thought we made a list of goals, not of exact how it was going to be done. Is that correct or am I wrong?
That's correct. You approved on the items, and I'm coming back and telling you that, with these being the goals that are there, these are the actions that are taking place to meet your goals.
Mr. Chairman.
Hold on just a second. Supervisor Gentis has the floor.
I think I can help her.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, so, yeah, go ahead, Supervisor.
I think that what is happening here is that Administrator Langrick is giving us kind of a progress report on the actions he's taking on this list. And it might be helpful to Supervisor Gentis and to the rest of us to change the language of the motion to moving to accept the report as submitted. Because he's making a progress report.
That's what it says, Supervisor Soup. It says motion to accept report.
Yeah, but no, the motion was to approve it.
All right, there's a big difference.
That's not the motion. Supervisor Luck, you made the motion, and Supervisor Cooey suggested it, and the motion
To
as
accept the report.
the motion as written in front of us on the agenda item cover sheet says motion to accept report.
I see someone, and I believe it was the chair, stated that it was to approve the report, and I know that we're all capable of frailty.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, all those in favor of accepting the reports, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I apologize for being pedantic.
That's okay. And I had to look that word up last time you used it, and I probably will have to again. Agenda item number 10, award resolution, short-term financing, Administrator Langer.
Mr. Chair, this is item number 10 you'll find in your folder and also on the website. Looking for recommended action to set a finance and personnel meeting immediately prior to the 27th October 2020 County Board meeting to review loan agreement and recommend resolution to the County Board for action at that evening's meeting. Background and discussion with Carol Worth, who's our municipal advisor. She'll be presenting the finalized paperwork for the borrowing and the award resolution. The resolution will be prepared by Quarles and Brady. The final packet will contain an estimated 8-page resolution with 30 pages in total of supporting documentation. Items that we have to submit to Quarles and Board Brady include the 2021 budget, posted budget, a copy of the 2019 audit and due diligence questionnaire. Bids for the loan will be put to market on the morning of the 27th. Bid form will be presented and documents executed by the chair and the clerk. Bond counsel will have a packet of closing documents. And on number 24th is the date that we plan on having the funds wired and closing. And the wires go out early, so they're asking for timely confirmation. So all that being said, again, the estimated impact of this is for the $1,050,000 placement, but in everything that they prepare for it, they typically how they do it then is, as mentioned, is they have the committee meet prior to the meeting because the notes will be actually sold that morning. Will get wired to New York to market. So my recommendation then is through the adjournment that we adjourn to a meeting right prior to the October 7th county board meeting to finalize then the short-term loan financing. Did I make that confusing enough?
What is the exact motion that you're asking for?
Through your adjournment to adjourn to to have the next meeting scheduled right prior to county board. Supervisor Sieg.
So I just want to read what is in front of us, just so we know what we're, someone makes a motion. So it's a recommendation, it's a recommended action to set a finance and personnel meeting immediately prior to the October 27th county board meeting to review loan agreement and recommend resolution to the county board for action at that evening's meeting. So Supervisor Gentis?
Don't we normally meet on the 6th anyway at 1 o'clock? First?
So we do normally meet on the first Tuesday of the month. What if we pass this motion, this would change our adjournment date, as the administrator mentioned, to an earlier date.
No, to a later date.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm mixing up my months.
Yeah,
I was in November already. I was anxious.
We actually had the meeting for October, we're a week early, is today. So.
Oh, you're right.
Yep,
Yes.
yep.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the October meeting. We had to do this so that we could.
Okay,
So the
I think I
staff,
had to leave and I didn't realize you decided that. Okay.
yeah. So staff had to has to be able to publish the budget by October 3rd in the Observer. So that's why we moved our October board
Okay,
meeting up.
I understand.
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Motion by Supervisor Cooey,
I'll second.
second by Supervisor Luck. Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Agenda item number 11, Cdbg grant projects. Administrator Langright.
Mr. Chair, looking for two motions today. One motion to accept proposed I'm going to say it wrong. Verbiker. Jason, are you on to help?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, Veerbicker, it's fine.
Associates Incorporated to provide consulting services for the Cdbg close process in the area of application preparation and grant administration. And then a second motion to impose the application fee of the Cdbg post-project applications finalist. Estimated cost per application is $4,500 on the partnering project beneficiary. And I will defer to Director Glassbrenner to further expound on this item.
Okay, so there was a process that we needed to go through that was prescribed by the Department of Administration for making sure that we selected a consultant to help us with the application and then the grant administration. Some of the documents that you have attached there, 11 Cdbg grant project, close RFP scoring worksheets. They're available to you. I don't know if you want to take time to pull them up or not. Anyway, what I did was it's Exhibit 4 at the top, and it's a scoring process. And so I provided those to you. One is titled Veerbicker at the top, and the other one is MSA. We only had 2 applicants. I had contacted a third, but they declined to submit a proposal. The results are also listed in your packet there. It is called the 11 CBDG Grant Project D Signed Cdbg Close RFP Scoring Summary. This basically takes the data that's on the scoring sheets and puts it on a summary sheet. You can see how they were scored, and you can see the cost difference that was submitted by each of the proposers. And then I've signed at the bottom what the recommendation is to award Veerbicker the right to be our consultant. Are there any questions on that element?
If you could just go ahead and walk through everything, Mr. Glassbrenner, and then we'll take questions.
Okay, the second thing would be is inside of the actual proposals, they broke out between how much would be allocated towards administration and how much would be allocated towards the application. And the motion number 2 on this document says that that the motion to impose the application fee of the CDBG closed project applicant finalist estimated at $4,500 on the partnering project beneficiaries. So in other words, there's going to be 2 projects. We have an idea of, we have a list of 5. If we make it through the process of getting these fully submitted and they're accepted by the DOA, then what we would propose is to pass on those application fees to, again, the project beneficiary. That would mean there would be no additional cost to the county, and that the grants that are being issued back to us would then cover the administration element. So there should be no additional cost to the county for this program to be executed. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask if there are any questions or comments from committee members, but are you finished?
Well, that's the 2 items we have listed there. We do have another development under this, which is, I believe previously we had established a timeline, which we can review that if you'd like. But however you want to handle the business, we definitely could work on motion 1 and 2 here, and then we could go to the next item if you'd like.
Okay, so let's see, okay, so we only have 1 agenda item at CDBG grant project. So we've got 2 motions presented by Mr. Glassbrenner. So maybe any questions or comments on these 2 motions?
Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
I move that we approve motion number 1.
I second
Okay, motion by Supervisor Seep and a second by Supervisor Gentis. So this is a motion to accept the proposal of Bierbecker Associates. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. And then motion number 2, anyone want to do that one?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, motion by Supervisor Cooey.
I'll second.
Second by Supervisor Luck. Any further discussion on that one?
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Supervisor Seep.
At some point, maybe not appropriate to discussion of this motion. Can you tell us at some point here what the total amount of investment in projects will be from these grants? And
yes, absolutely. There have been estimates, but I have hesitated to dig too deeply into those estimates and to refine those with the potential recipients of these grants, because we get, we start to create expectations. So we're in a good place right now where we've identified 2 projects that I believe will total the 1.2 million. And we will be able to refine those with the consultant and having this process officially recognized by the county. And so then it's much more appropriate to go out and deal with these, the people of these 2 projects, because we know that that it's highly likely that it's going to move forward. But the answer to your question is yes, we'll definitely provide updated numbers.
it's gratifying that we'll be able to have access to the 1.2 million.
Okay, any other questions on that motion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. And then Mr. Glassbrenner, if you want to give us an update on the schedule, that'd be helpful. I know I had a question on this when I was reviewing it.
Yeah, so previously we had set a timeline for a July, August kind of me continuing to look for possible projects in the county. September was a county resolution to adopt the citizen participation plan, and then portions of that plan would be implemented at the same meeting. We took care of that with the county resolution. We had October as the project committee meeting and referral to county board. Right now, that element is actually postponed because the next county board meeting that we have coming up is not until the end of October. So we're kind of needing to push that off into November. So what we would have is project committee meetings. We have working with our consultant once it's cleared by the county board and preparing elements of the application. There's a more formal process that we would do with our consultant in contacting the State Department of Administration to make sure those projects are indeed going to move through without any problem. We do have those citizen participation meetings that are required. So we would be looking at, with the current approval process being at the end of October, we would be really pushing in November and December to finalize the process. I did speak with Veerbecker today, Kurt Mukow. He indicates to me that he believes that we still have enough time in November and December, and submitting the final application by mid-January 15th. We actually have until January 31st. So I'm trying to create a cushion in the end of that, so we're not, submitting at the final day of where they're possible. So
one question I have for you is, would those citizen participation meetings happen separately from finance and personnel? Is that a different meeting, or is it part of?
Yes, thank you for bringing that up, Chairman. We need to, I believe, acknowledge that the Finance Committee, if this is, I think this is the way we kind of previously discussed, is that the Finance and Personnel Committee would act as the de facto Citizen Participation Committee. So the goal would obviously be to have those at normal scheduled meetings, but I don't think that is going to be possible, because there's a good chance that we would need to convene in one here in Richland Center, and then if the projects go as anticipated, one in Lone Rock. So there is some question around that. We had talked about the Finance and Personnel Committee serving as the Citizen Participation Committee, but we do need some kind of final direction on that.
Do you have a preference or a recommendation?
I'd recommend that, as previously discussed, it would be the Finance and Personnel, since you're most familiar with this program. And then the only thing that we would need to do in addition would be to select an individual from the community that would fulfill the requirement or would meet the low to moderate income participation requirement that exists with the grant. So I've tried to review kind of the rules of the board. It's not very clear to me the appropriate steps. So what I would suggest is that I'll go out and find the person that is willing to serve on this committee, and I would bring it back for the county board to review at the next meeting, so that once we have the full county board approval of this of the consultant contract, we would have also the citizen participant meeting the LMI requirement selected and officially recognized, and we would be hot on our way in November and December to getting this wrapped up.
Okay, well, I think, we don't have a motion laid out before us on this, so I think we'll just be looking for a recommendation from you, Mr. Glassbrenner, about how to handle that. I'm thumbing through the July document. I don't see a lot of details about that, so I think we'll stay tuned.
Yeah, well, the thing that we need to make sure is that the Finance Committee is going to be recognized as the official committee serving as a Citizen Participation Committee. So if we're able to do that at the next county board meeting, that would be great. I just don't want to keep kind of pushing this off. And like I said, in trying to discern from the county board rules, it's not clear how this is supposed to take place. And there isn't, the guidance from Cdbg isn't going to tell us how to run county business. It says we need a Citizen Participation Committee.
Mr. Chairman.
Yep, Supervisor C.
I move that the Finance and Personnel Committee make a recommendation to the county board that it serve as the Citizen Participation Committee.
Okay, motion by Supervisor C.
I'll second.
Okay, second by Supervisor Luck. I guess one concern I would have about us being a citizen participation committee is we're already elected officials. And I know that we'd be adding someone from a low to moderate income group level. But are we really soliciting the opinions of citizens by having a meeting here?
The answer would be no. It's the formation of the committee to handle basically a public hearing. So public hearings have to be held in regard to each of these projects. It's just that you're the committee that's officially recognized at the county level to meet the Cdbg requirements. So there still has to be notices published. The consultant will help us do that. We have to publish notices and try to continue to gain citizen participation and input into this process.
We're just the committee that would hold a public hearing, but there could be a separate committee developed with citizen participation. I am confused.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Supervisor Sheep.
Mr. Chairman, I believe the inference is that the mechanics of this would be that the public hearing would be an open meeting to which any citizens could come and participate in that hearing. And that, to me, it seems to me, would satisfy the requirement for a citizen participation. The function of the committee would be to hold a hearing and have a committee member who is a citizen member, but also that the function would be an open meeting and the citizens of the community would be invited to participate with commentary. Am I correct, Mr. Glassbrenner?
Yes, that's a good summary.
Okay, I guess, yeah, I'm just more I'm just confused. It'd be nice if this were a little more laid out. I mean, we can't change the makeup of our committee. We don't have the power to do that. The Committee on Committees has the power to do that. So we can't pass a motion saying that we should be some special committee. That's my concern about this motion.
Mr. Chairman.
Yep, Supervisor Sheep.
Yes, I think that you may have to ask the Rules Committee to appoint an ad hoc citizen participation committee. Perhaps our clerk could advise us.
We're looking to do, I'm sorry, looking to do then it would be a structure resolution change by rules and resolutions to then essentially kind of add another paragraph to that document saying that the Finance and Personnel Committee serves as the CDBG closed citizen participation committee for purposes of hosting public citizen hearings. Is that?
Perhaps. I think this might need to be handled offline. I think staff needs to work with you. Mr. Glassbrenner, I think you need to work with Administrator Langreich to come up with a plan for how to deal with this and maybe look at how some other counties have dealt with this. Do they use their finance and personnel or their executive committee? And if they don't, what committees do they use? So I don't think this is prepared enough for us to take any, my 2 cents is I wouldn't vote for this because I don't think we're prepared enough. So.
I'm not offended if you don't vote for my motion.
Okay.
Yep.
Any further discussion? Okay, so all those in favor of the motion signify by saying, should we just go do a roll call so it's clear? Okay, let's do a roll call on the motion, just so it's clear, because we only got 5 people, so that'd be hard on the voice.
Dave's here, isn't he?
No, Dave, Supervisor Turk is gone.
Oh, I can't see it there.
Yeah, we've just got 5 members.
Buck?
No.
Francis?
No.
Louis?
No.
Murphy Wilkins?
No.
Steve?
I defer to the request of the chair sentiment, so I don't know.
Okay, so that motion fails. So, okay, thank you, Mr. Glassbrenner. We'll look forward to learning more on that. So thanks for reviewing that schedule. Agenda item number 12, COVID benefit time reimbursement. let's see, I know we have the sheriff here. I believe this item is coming from the sheriff's department, but Chief Deputy.
Yep,
Porter?
I'm here. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I guess what I'm looking for is a motion to reimburse employee benefit time that was taken due to a workplace COVID-19 exposure and subsequent isolation period. Reimbursement would come from COVID's Care Fund or COVID's Care Act funds. We submitted for the reimbursement when we submitted the COVID CARES Act totals. I had down future reimbursements could possibly come from future grants. As it stands right now, it looks like the CDC recommendations for critical infrastructure employees are actually not to isolate, but to symptom monitor, wear masks, and frequently clean your workplace. So I don't know that we would be in this situation again in the future, but I haven't spoke with Rose about that. Just a little background on this. Back in July, we had 6 employees who, through the course of their duties, were exposed to a COVID positive person. All 6 employees were put on isolation periods at home and were unable to return to work until the isolation periods were through. The current COVID plan by the county was that they were to use their benefit time, mainly sick leave, but whatever benefit time they had to use to cover that absence. So we did have a number of employees that used their sick leave. 2 of the 6 employees were brand new employees who didn't have sick leave to use, then went in the hole, which has now caused, I guess, further problems. One of them has had to take days unpaid since then due to not having any benefit time.
Okay, questions or comments?
Yes.
From committee members, Supervisor Seat?
The expense apparently is for reimbursement for loss of wages and other expenses, I presume. And is this particular to the sheriff's department? Are there other departments who have these kind of events that require reimbursement? And if so, do we need to broaden this? I understand that some time ago, something like this occurred at the highway department. Can anyone answer that question?
Mr. Chair, I can speak to that. Through our CARES First, or Families First Act, there were exemptions that were made for employees that were not qualifying based on our resolution through the county board to not be able to participate in this program. Law enforcement and public safety folks are included in that exemption, so they don't have the entitlement to a Families First Act like some of our other employees do. So when these folks were given instructions to quarantine in compliance with county orders, they went back and they utilized their sick balance time to make up the difference on it. So then after that, we had routes to recovery that came out and said that some of those monies can be appropriated to make up for employees' lost time. So we've submitted for those charges. So if those charges come back to us from routes to recovery, it seems it's appropriate then to reimburse then those employees rather than the county kind of double dipping of making an employee use benefit time and then also claiming that for an expense against the state, if that makes sense.
Yes, that's very satisfactory. Does that mean that lost sick time or whatever was used is restored?
That would be the expectation, that is, their balances would be restored.
Yeah, I'm in favor of it.
And then in the future too, I'm hoping in the meeting prior to the county board meeting to also, if allowed, to bring forward also a review on the Families First Act.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lambert.
Okay, any other questions or comments? All right, all those in favor, did we get a motion? Thank you. Okay. Motion by Supervisor Gentis, a second by Supervisor Cooley. Now, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Agenda item number 13, compensatory time changes to the sheriff's addendum. Chief Deputy Porter, I think that's you again.
Yes, I guess I'm looking for a motion to approve an amendment to the Richland County Sheriff's Department addendum to the county handbook or employee handbook in regards to compensatory time. Changing the current wording to adjust the 25.5 hour threshold for department employees on a 6-3 rotation to 51 hours or 1 full work week. This would be to, I guess, remain consistent with the rest of the county departments who went from 24 hours to 40 hours of compensatory time. I believe based on our last conversation, we said that had made it all the way through the county board. So again, I'm looking to increase the threshold to 51 hours from 25.5 hours as it's currently worded in the Sheriff's Department addendum.
Okay, so questions or comments? Yeah, Supervisor C.
Is this in any way impacted by the union contract?
No, this only deals with our non-union staff at this point. If the union wishes to have their language changed in their contract, they would have to either enter into an MOU with the county or renegotiate that next negotiation period.
How many employees does this involve?
This would involve our, I think, 14 jail staff. I believe it was all it would involve.
Okay, any other questions? All right, I'd entertain a motion to approve the amendments. The addendum.
I move we approve the addendum.
Okay, motion by Supervisor C. Second by Supervisor Cooey. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are any opposed? All right, that motion carries. 14, agenda item number 4. Thank you, Chief Deputy.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 14, changes to employee handbook and addendums. Minister Langright.
Mr. Chair, looking for a motion to recommend proposed amendments to the employee handbook of Richland County, adopted by the county board on January 17, 2019, and last amended April 16, 2019, and addendum Health and Human Services, Highway, Sheriff, Pine Valley, with resolution referral to the county board. Background on this item: at the July 21st, 2020 meeting, Richland County Board, job descriptions of the administrator and 13 department heads were amended to reflect the statutory authority of the administrator to supervise department heads who are not elected by Richland County voters. The purpose of the employee handbook of Richland County is to provide broad overview of Richland County's, the county employee policies, practices, procedures, and benefits. Among other topics, this manual provides employees information on performance evaluation, discipline, separation, sexual harassment, accident reporting, county's drug and alcohol policy. Several changes are recommended to the employee handbook to reflect the supervisory changes approved by the county board. These changes shift responsibilities from the administrative coordinator and supervisory committees to the administrator, with several attachments to this, including the handbook and then the addendums for Health and Human Services, Highway, Sheriff, and Pine Valley.
Okay, so questions or comments on this item?
I had one question.
Yep, Supervisor C.
Among the authorities that you mentioned one was separation. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, I don't quite understand.
When you were saying administer discipline and so forth and so on, you also included separation. Is that right?
In the report survey that I just read?
Yes.
We had on here, the back open.
Discipline, separation, sexual harassment.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep, Supervisor Love.
So it's my understanding in looking at these documents that all that really happened was we made the adjustment that in the places where it previously had said reports to or send to or whatever to the committee, supervising committee, or the administrative coordinator, we changed that language to the county administrator, correct?
Well, yes, in some of the places it's saying county administrator or designate,
Right.
because many of the functions still reside.
So this change is to go along with the changes we made,
Correct, it's to
giving you
try
that
to,
authority, bring them all together.
bring them
Correct.
consistent, as we did make previous adjustments also to the administrative manual.
And then, so Supervisor Seat, there is a section on discipline, suspension, or dismissal of an employee. And, you know, for example, right now, if an employee fails in the, I'm just reading from one section, if the employee fails in the opinion of the department head to correct adequately the problem giving rise to the above notice within the allowed time period, the department head shall present the issue to, and it used to say, or under it, currently it says, the Finance and Personnel Committee. And that is now stricken and it says county administrator. So it's taking away that authority of this committee to go into closed session to review dismissals, and it is sending that now to the county administrator. And this already, we already made changes to our committee structure to take some of this authority away and to the administrative manual, I believe, but we didn't do it in the employee handbook. And so this is, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the last document that has to be changed to be in line with those other things that we were already doing.
So, one defining question. This means that the department head cannot take action of discipline or separation, but rather report the issue to the administrator.
That's correct, yes. Now,
toward a subordinate employee.
That's correct. Now, I do believe that there will be a need to go through these documents to distinguish between elected and non-elected department heads.
I think we've done it.
I'm not sure that it has been done, actually. So that may be another step that we need to take to clarify. If an employee, say of the sheriff, you know, would that need to be approved by the administrator, or would that go to LEJC or the Finance and Personnel Committee? I think some of that needs to be worked out still. Am I correct about that?
This is another small step in the strategic goal that's put forth of a full review of the county employee handbook, addendums, and administrative manual. As we actually kind of begin talking about not only the people that the mechanics touch, but then talking about the mechanics themselves, and if we're satisfied with the current different procedures that we have, or the different policy requirements that we have to meet on the different actions.
I think the suggestion is, if I gather it correctly, is that there may be a somewhat different set of circumstances for the constitutionally elected department heads in relationship to their subordinates, as opposed to the non-constitutionally elected. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct. That's my understanding. Also, I want to mention, just because you're bringing this topic up, and I think people will be interested in this one about dismissals. Employees who are dissatisfied, the way it's written on page 25 of the employee handbook, is that employees who are dissatisfied with the administrator's written response to their concern may, within 2 weeks of receiving the administrator's response, appeal to the Finance and Personnel Committee. So there still is a role for the Finance and Personnel Committee under these current proposed changes. And so the Finance and Personnel Committee is not totally pulled out of, we're sort of like a, would you say, like a check on the administrator position, I believe.
Are you suggesting that that's kind of a grievance procedure?
Grievances are a separate topic, I believe, in
well, if an employee is dissatisfied with the discipline by his department head or her department head and wants to appeal it, wouldn't you call that a grievance?
We have a separate grievance policy.
Okay.
I think I don't have it in front of me right now, Supervisor Sheik, but I think that in order to initiate a grievance, it has to do on material impact on the employee of loss of wages, loss of benefit, loss of promotion ability, before we go through a formal grievance process.
if this committee approves these changes today, I suggest that, these are long documents.
Yeah.
30 some pages for the employee handbook. I'd suggest before it goes to the county board to review these in great detail and see if anyone finds any concerns, because a lot of changes have been made here, but they tend to be consistent. But if anyone thinks anything is being missed, I think, it's good to review these and bring that up. So.
Mr. Chair, I would make the motion to recommend these amendments to the full county board meeting.
Okay, a motion by Supervisor Luck.
I'll second.
Second by Supervisor Cooey. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Agenda item number 16, revenue report. We had revenue reports passed out, and Treasurer Keller, you're still here. I should have done this earlier, shouldn't I? Sorry, thanks for spending your afternoon with us. Would you mind just turning your mic on and just highlighting anything you want us to look at?
Okay, I didn't get to do some time for you to put them on the iPad, sorry about that, but.
Can you pull just a little closer to your mic, please? Thank you.
Okay, finally got sales tax figures in, which turned out to be pretty good.
Yeah.
So that was a good thing. Our August investment interest didn't go down as much as I thought it would. I thought that would decline much faster. So I think that's a good point as well. It's still not good interest, but it's not down as far as I thought it would go rapidly. And then our tax collections remain good. And our revenue total cash is a bit lower. That usually happens in September and October, and then we get our shared revenues in November for $1 million. So kind of the norm.
Okay, Supervisor Luck.
I just wanted to, so I just did some quick math, so it might not be perfect, but I looked at our sales tax, and sometimes we're over and sometimes we're under from last year, but we were 80,000 to the plus side for our sales tax overall. So that's good.
Yeah, people are still buying, spending.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Supervisor C.
It looks like we don't know what's going to happen in these last 3 months. Maybe stimulus money is running out, and which will put a brake on spending, I suppose. But it's very possible. It looks like that we will come out pretty well. Perhaps we're on par now, and perhaps we'll beat last year.
Okay, well, thank you for providing this, Treasurer Keller. Yeah, any other questions? Yeah, Supervisor Cooey?
Yeah, the cash balance is, it's almost $2 million to the good every month compared to last year.
Probably means good things for our general funds.
I would agree. So whatever we're doing not to spend that cash, that's a good thing.
All right. Thank you, Treasurer, for coming today. I appreciate that. Okay, agenda item number 17, future agenda items proposals. Supervisor Gentis, do you have any?
Well, this would be at the meeting just before the county board.
Not necessarily. It could be that one, or it could be.
I think it should be at a future one, because I'd like us to have a closed session and discuss the action to have assistance for the county administrator.
Okay, anything else?
No.
Okay, Supervisor Luck? Okay, Supervisor C?
One small item that I would like to propose, an idea to be considered by Administrator Langrick, and that is the issue of, has to do with employee discipline. If an employee is placed on probation, we've had an incident where an employee was placed on probation and it ran into the next step wage year, the step in the wage scale. I think that when an employee is on probation for a period of 3 months or 6 months or whatever, that the either the forthcoming or unless it happens in January, the forthcoming year when the step wage comes in place, that the delay in the step wage increase be equal to the time of the probation. I don't think it makes any sense to have somebody on probation and give them a raise at the same time. I'd like Mr. Landgraf to consider a formula for managing that idea if the committee would consider it.
Okay, any other items? Supervisor seat, anything else? Just that one?
That's fine for now.
Okay, Supervisor Coote, yeah, you'll always have more chances, I promise. Supervisor Coote?
I don't have anything.
Okay, all right, that brings us to agenda item number 18, adjournment. We already discussed adjourning to October 27th. I was gonna ask for a preferred time by Administrator Langlet for that.
Carol Worth says that it's at least a 15-minute type of presentation and to get through it all. So I don't know if you'd want to meet 30 minutes prior to be able to conclude that and give yourself time to reset for county board.
I was thinking like 6 o'clock.
Yeah, I think that would be good.
Jason, that would be okay with that for a setup for 6?
We don't know where we're, do we know where we're meeting?
Okay, all right, so.
We're set up for the Phoenix Center.
Okay, so I'd entertain a motion to adjourn to 6 p.m. on Tuesday, October 27th at the Phoenix Center. Okay, motion by Supervisor Lett. Second by Supervisor Coote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
I have the well report if anyone's curious.
Oh, sure.
I'll send it on to whoever, it's 100 feet deep, and it was put in October of 1970.
100 feet, that's a pretty shallow well these days.
Yeah, it is.
1970, that well is.
Well,